What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 of Unlimited and Upgrade in Consciousness. And before we get into our interview today, I want to connect to where I left off in my story yesterday. As I said before, I met this lady, Anita Murjani, who healed miraculously from cancer after having a near-death experience. And she basically told me that like to live my life, accept every moment of my life, and see every moment of my life happening for me, not to me. Now, in order to be able to do that, you're gonna have to deal with a lot of your stuff come up, because life is always triggering and causing us to, feel all these emotions. And for me, much of my life, I suppressed a lot of my emotions. I never knew how to feel. I grew up learning just to suppress my emotions, being a man, coming from a conservative Indian society. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to show feelings. So, you're supposed to be strong. So I did that for most of my life. And so when I met Anita, it was like, okay, let me go and start really just seeing my life as happening for me, not to me. And her healing from such a ridiculous thing made me think that maybe I could heal from being in a wheelchair. And so as I went on this journey, I still was not very good at feeling my emotions, or getting in there. And so what ended up happening was I had like 3 years back to back to back with significant health issues. I had pressure sores. I had some infections that I had to deal with, and they really made me. Two of those situations, I was like bedridden for almost 6 months. So it was a really tough process. But while I was sitting in that period of really being pretty immobile, I had to deal with a lot of my shit. I had to deal with a lot of my feelings that were coming up during that time. And that's when I really got a sense of what it means to feel your emotions, to feel your feelings. And eventually I moved on and got more into like meditation. And I met another teacher named Dr. Joe Dispenza. This dude's really popular. I read his book called You Are the Placebo, and then another book of his called Becoming Supernatural that really changed the game, because he talked about possibility and meditating and like feeling positive, happiness, joy, excitement by thought alone, and not needing something outside of you to happen to feel that way. And the more we got into meditation, we'd be conjuring up these emotions and really feeling the way we wanted to feel. And in these meditations too, feelings would come up as we would tap into higher vibration. Our lower emotions or fear emotions would come up in these meditations, and sometimes I would cry. Sometimes, it was just kind of some sort of release, or sometimes it's coughing and yawning even. But so like I was learning how to release this through meditation. And there's just so many different modalities or techniques out there that we can use and learn to be free from these emotions. And the more, what I discovered is the more I was free from emotions, the more things in my life flowed better. The more, obviously feeling the emotions is not fun. It's not exciting. Um, but the more I was like learned to do it, the more I saw the benefits of it for my life. The more I was freed from past thought patterns and past emotions, and the more I was more in tune with my life and more in flow. And so I learned that this is really important. It's really important. Like a lot of us have learned to like suppress our emotions, but we really need to live, like feel every feeling fully, like be in our sadness, be in our anger, and also be in our joy and be in our happiness. And Dr. Joe, he's a neuroscientist, and he'd put people up against with brain scans and heart rate variability monitors, and he'd take all these measurements of people in like deep states of meditation, and the data is like through the roof. And people at his workshops were healing from cancer and all sorts of stuff, rheumatoid arthritis, and I don't know. Like I saw, I saw a lot of things, being at these workshops and seeing possibility. And so this just made me like even more so on the journey. A big part of my motivation has been to walk again, but I can really tell you now, like I just love the journey. Like it's just to get into to letting go of these feelings, and every time I let go of an emotion, I have more epiphanies. I have more awareness, uh, and so I wouldn't live any other way anymore. And so the guest I have today, she's an energy and sound healer, and we're gonna get into different modalities like sound healing and energy healing, other ways that you can clear some of these emotions. And you'll see Michelle is really into like the Hindu culture and a lot of things that I grew up with. So it's pretty cool to make that connection with her today in a completely different way. So check it out. Uh, Michelle Coutinho is up next. Energy and sound healer. Check it out. What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 2 of Unlimited and Upgrade in Consciousness. Today, I got Michelle Coutinho. She's a healer. She's a songstress. She's an empowerment coach. Michelle, why don't you introduce yourself and let us know what do you do?
Yeah, that's always the hardest question that people start out with. It's like, who are you? I'm the infinite spark of light incarnated. There's that version. Who am I in the world? What do I do? I like to say that I'm a sound and energy healer disguised as a coach.
Hmm.
So I hold space in the container for people. I do work that one could coin as shamanic, though I hesitate to use that word in this time because though we may be multidimensionally trained in lineages, maybe I think you have to really respect who you're in service to, at this time. So I draw from many traditions. Bhakti yoga is a huge
Hmm.
one. I work with Hindu mantras a lot. But yeah, I offer sound and energy work to transmute trauma in the psyche and the mental and emotional body, and really thread, if you know yogic terminology, thread the koshas, which is the subtle body with the physical body, which is the soul and the soul, all together to create healing and ultimately, what was the name of the event? Upgrade and unlimited.
Unlimited and Upgrade in Consciousness.
That's my goal. That's what I do. A lot first, there's clearing layers and blockages of that. And I work with the chakras primarily through the voice. That's why I wear my caduceus. Is one of the most beautiful symbols of healing and teaching people to expand their wings, their energetic wings, and wear them in the world. So.
That's beautiful. And I'm really excited to dive really deep into that for our conversation. But before we get into that, how did you even get into this? Why did you get into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started doing energy healing when I was 9 years old because my mom took me to a Reiki share circle in South Florida. And so I mean, I had a very religious upbringing. I was like, went to the top Jewish private school in the country when I was very little. So, religion and my mom was into tarot and astrology. So that as a part of my foundation, the spiritual, it
Hmm.
was never far. It was like very there the whole time. So it was kind of always with me. And to be honest, I feel like my spiritual ancestry and lineage, whether it's the guides that I walk with or me through past lives, I think I've been steeped in that for many, many lifetimes.
Hmm.
And in this one, it's just been a process of, you know, the, um, the juxtaposition between being incarnated as like a girl in Fort Lauderdale, and growing up in the 90s and like all the normal stuff, and then like really like attuning to the infinite. And Ram Das was like one of my main teachers in high school. My mom got me Be Here Now, and I started listening to his talks when I was 17, feeling very like I didn't fit into society, like really feeling like this is weird, like I don't get it, about the world, and listening to all he talked about awakening and recognizing everything that he talked about in the 1970s to the people at Naropa in
Hmm.
Buddhism and all the hippies is like literally what I'm going through, like in my 20s. And so I started communicating with him through Skype, and I met Krishna Das in 2012, and that whole
Wow.
bhakti yoga like created this. expansion of my soul and my being. So when I sang mantra, I lit up. And so that was like me just seeing like how energetically wide I became when I was like Shiva Shiva Shambho, and I just was like boom, like a galactic being, in a kirtan. And so that was one step. And then plant medicine ceremonies later that year was another step, which we can get into later. And
Hmm.
um, and that really brought in that particular the way that shamanism works in a plant medicine ceremony is the shaman directs the sound, the energy, and the healing through the sound and the song. And so it really was like combining all the things that I did, right? So I just spoke to like the mantra being the sound, right? Understanding Ram Das is the energy healing, and then the ayahuasca kind of weaving those paths together, and then really understanding like, oh, like this is a real thing. And then as anyone who's done ayahuasca or has spent time with that journey knows, it's a very winding road and winding path. And then I think I kind of got spit out like 2 years ago, where it was like, okay, now how do you bring that into the world? Like everything that you learned. And then I started doing vocal alchemy and empowerment work. And I actually started leading ceremonies. Oh, is my connection a little off?
No, you're okay.
Okay, good. I started helping facilitate plant medicine ceremonies with my voice and using the healing and doing all of that as well. And then my coaching practice kind of was like birthed out of that. So
All right, Michelle, you said a lot of things in in that answer. And I want to touch on a lot of it. And so the first thing I really want to get into is mantras. What are mantras? Why are they powerful? Why do you like them? Fill us in.
oh my God. Okay. So, according to like the stories about mantras, is mantras are syllabic sounds, like so syllables. And that actually goes well with toning because when we tone syllables. But there's syllabic sounds that the ancient rishis in India, which is what your lineage is from in this life,
Hmm.
um, shamanic states, they were in like these exalted states, and they said like Ram is the sound of God, and Shiva and all of these names. So all of the Hindu deities, all of the syllables, they are the frequency of sound of the unmanifest.
Mm.
So Deepak Chopra has this phrase about pure potentiality, which is a very Deepak Chopra sounding phrase. But it means the vast nothingness, like that we're all created from. And then out of the darkness, right, was the word. It's kind of that same essence, right, in the Bible, where it's like out of the nothing was the word, and the word was God, or the word was good, and then there was light. So there was first sound, and so these sounds are pulled down from the infinite, um, from nothingness, and brought and create form. They create form just like our thoughts become things. So the unmanifest vibratory reality comes into vibration and creates the world around us. And I feel like it's so sacred what I'm saying. It's really beautiful.
That's beautiful.
Um, and so when we pray or when we chant or when we sound with intention, we are attuning ourselves to the quality of that cosmic all. And what's interesting with mantra, and specifically the deities of the Hindu pantheon, the landscape that they're all like the colorful archetypes that we have in our own psyche. And so as I pray to Shiva, whatever the qualities of Shiva are, the destroyer, the precision, the masculine, the eternal meditator, the calmness, um, that quality can be evoked inside me as I attune to it through the prayer and the chant to the
Mm.
deity. And so there are certain ones, like for some reason Saraswati mantras, like they don't do it for me, but Shiva mantras, like I just dig Durga, like any warrior aspect of the divine. I'm like Kali, like there's and you can hear it too in the ragas, which I'm not an expert on, but there's certain tones in these mantras that also evoke, like the melody is also a mirror of the essence of the power of the aspect of the divine.
Mm.
And so we're marrying, we're closing the gap from where we are. And like I said, the 14-year-old girl who grew up in South Florida, like there's that person. But as I'm chanting, I'm like, and something that Ram Das said, since I mentioned him, he said something that's so beautiful, where it's like I'm tuning in on the Omkar. So it's like anybody who's ever chanted this mantra, like it exists somewhere in the radio waves of the cosmos. And when I tune in and I'm like Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, and like all of the millions of Om Mani Padme Hums out there, like that I get to join with that force, just like when we do like global meditations or something like that. Like we're joining with forces that are greater than us. And really that's my work, is to call in those forces and remember who we are, and then allow ourselves to be this expanded self. Because right now, according, we live in the Kali Yuga, they say, and it's not reflected outward, all of these things that we're talking about.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. And so I've been a significant meditator for probably the last 3 or 4 years. And now, what was that again? Sorry?
I said hashtag significant meditator.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think this year I've evolved into pranayamas, like the breath work, and more of the mantras and tuning into sounds, things like that. And so I'd like to know, what is your comparison between doing the mantras and tapping into these sound frequencies versus meditation?
Yeah. Well, they're very different. So like bhakti, and it's like, and I mean, anybody who's like an American and we speak of bhakti yoga, like we can study it, but it's not, I can't proclaim that I'm like an expert on it. But bhakti is like a celebration. It's like it's the yoga of love. Like, and like bhakti is union and there's a lover and a beloved. There's a relationship of like, so that none of that is in meditation. Like meditation is much more like bhakti is juicy and feminine and like, lustful in a ecstatic way to God.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a path. These are roads. These are lit roads to God. And so when we do just meditation, and it reminds me of, there's so many paths for meditation, like Vajrayana Buddhism, and there's a stillness, and there's Zen, which is like completely austere, right? And then it's more, I think it depends what path you're on, but you're essentially attuning to the divine within, and or going into nothingness, and that is the divine in a way. And that's very different from building a relationship and the aspects and the pantheon of, it's almost like saying like Hinduism and Buddhism, if you wanted to say that. I'm sure there's meditation as a part of Hinduism. Hinduism is much more colorful and celebratory. Right. And Buddhism is like chill. Like we're gonna just be right here. So that's what the difference is for me.
Well, yeah, no, I appreciate that answer, because I feel like there was a significant amount of time where I was like, meditation's everything. It's all about meditation. And now I really see everything as there's just so many different modalities that lead us to God or to the universe, and to these, whether it's being in complete stillness and nothingness, or tuning into these vibrations that are ancient, right? And so on that note, what is vocal alchemy, what you do, and this connection that has with our energy body?
Yeah, exactly. So exactly, like you kind of answered it. So the voice is like as we talk about meditation, the voice is inside of us, right? It's already there. There's nowhere to go, and it's also vibratory. And what I have found in my work, working with people who felt like they couldn't sing, so all universe is expansion, contraction. There's so many reasons now that I've worked with more and more people, but at the very seed and beginning of my work, it was like they couldn't access the root. A lot of people are not really grounded, I would say, or they're scared of the primal force of energy, the power, right? And so by allowing especially if they're shy to express themselves, that's a huge part of like the first step of like is really like claiming and owning that. So when we use the voice, this is a very a small, simple answer to like a whole menagerie of things that I do in my work, but it's when we use the voice to connect to the root chakra and then move energy that was stagnant or stuck down the legs when they've never experienced that because they're used to just being totally cut off and like, or like a talking head, and they're not letting the emotional body, the energy body, all of the fears, all of the, I do something called the witch wound, which is like people who have had persecution. In the psyche of all women, there's an imprint that if I speak out or if I'm seen as a wise woman, I will be struck down. Something bad will happen to me. It can happen ancestrally because of the patriarchal time. So there's a lot of fears, different reasons why people fear being in their full empowerment, and something that I've worked on a lot. This is obviously, we teach what we need to learn, right? So this is like a big part of my journey. And when you move the energy, the Shakti, wherever it's stuck, whether it's the root, whether it's the heart, where the throat, you can use the voice as like some leverage to actually start to allow the stuck blocks to move. And usually it's emotions that are coming out. Usually people haven't heard themselves emit tones that are loud. I do a shamanic soul song activation where people kind of like get to go crazy with their voice, and if they're so used to like holding themselves back, then they're surprised by what comes out of their mouths. That to itself is liberating. So the alchemy is taking what's stuck and transforming it into gold, into freedom, into like who knows what, like a wider space. And the voice is how we use that, to move our energy, because it's the voice is more concrete. I was talking to my client earlier, and she was talking about I want to learn how to move my subtle energy more. I'm practicing with that. It's harder to teach something invisible and etheric, but it's easy to be like, make a note through that part, and then they're like, oh, okay. So
Yeah, and this is something I've learned recently, like, because I was really, for a good like 3 years or so, I was really connected to learning the subtle energy and how to, and had amazing experiences with that. But I do find that with sound, using your voice, especially in those, chakras and stuff, it's almost faster or stronger, or there's just more of a connection. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And so I really kind of want to break down like the chakra system.
Okay.
If you can kind of go over, the root chakra up and like what that area signifies, what kind of, we get emotions stuck there. Um, Explain that to me.
Yeah, do you want me to explain it, or do you want us to tone into it, or what do you
Let's
want to
explain
do?
it first and then do a little toning.
Okay. Okay, so the root chakra is the ancestral lineage of, it grounds you into the earth. The color is red, and it's all of the primordial, it's like our bones in our life, and it just like is like the raw, anything raw and visceral. And it's so important that one is connected to the earth, because once, if that's not connected, it's the root, right? So anything that's above will be affected. This is my little child here. Then we have the sacral, and the element is water. And the sacral is our sexuality, our sensuality, and our ability to create. And that is the reproductive organs. This one is a lot of where people have relationships from. And especially in our society, in our day and age now, and it's a lot of unhealthy relationships and toxic relationships. It comes from the abandonment wound and clinging and all of the, I need you and this and that, versus, and oddly, it's also the place of wealth. And I think that's something for creativity. So there's also a lot of power, which we have friends who do, a lot of people are like sexual manifestation, right? So that's where that centers. And then the third, Manipura, it means lustrous gem. And this is the power center. And the sound that I like to use here is like har. It's like the fire and the rage, and it's the digestive fire. And this is also where people kind of interact from with the outer world a lot, which is like power over, power under, like what are you gonna give me, kind of, and they have shadows too. So the first shadow is fear. The second shadow is guilt. The third shadow is shame. Right, I'm ashamed of like my outer self or myself, my true self. But when they're exalted, then you have right relationship to yourself. You're in your power. You're like in you trust your gut, right? Those feelings. And then there's a great bridge, right? And I could like follow my little guy here. And then there's a bridge, and then it's the heart. The heart chakra is green, and the word is anahata, and it means unstruck. And the heart chakra is, I love the image of wings on the back of our body. It rules the lungs. The shadow is grief, and the exaltation is compassion. Like when we are completely forgiving of all things, and we have this generosity of the heart. The throat chakra. I always get confused about the elements here, because they go from here, and then it's like something switches, and I can never remember what the throat chakra element is. The color is blue, and I think the element might be sound, actually, and it governs.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Sounds, yeah. I just popped in, and it governs our truth, and obviously, what would be the shadow expression would be lies, and just like we said in the beginning, our ability to create, right? So there's a link between the sacral chakra, and the voice. And a lot of women do womb work that's also like as open as we are in the vagina, in the womb, as allowing as we are of receiving and creating from that space, so too can we also with our voice and our expression. They're connected. There's a link there. There's a sacred link. I'm sure it's that way for men in a kind of a different way. But it really, our ability to create and to speak our truth, and then therefore create our reality, goes from that space. And then we've got the third eye, Ajna chakra. This chakra I love. When I teach the meditation, there's a point right here at the occipital, and then if you can make a little beam of light going from the back to the front, in between here, and we say we went down from the top of the head, that's where the pineal and the pituitary gland are, and this is the third eye. So when you take the DMT of the ayahuasca like medicine, that's the part that kind of opens you up to intergalactic consciousness, and you're like, oh, this is how it is. But right now, in our human condition, we don't, without psychedelics or entheogens, we don't get access to all of that. And so that's our intuitive sense, our third eye. People are mostly familiar with that term. And then we have the top of the head, the crown chakra. And the crown chakra, I always say it funny in Sanskrit, it's sarasraha. It opens up like a portal. And I always see silver. People say it's like violet or white. I always see like the silver light up above the head, spinning like a funnel up. And then there's chakras and chakras and chakras. 8th chakra, just like there's many dimensions of life. Like there's many connections. And then we have a soul star that's above our head that connects us to our soul. I believe we don't really fully, like my soul is such a vast energetic, that part of my soul is in my being, that is Michelle, but a lot of my soul is also on another plane, in the astral, and I feel like there's that connection there. And then we make sure that we go all the way down again to make sure that we're still grounded here. And then we land in the heart.
That was such a beautiful explanation. Like you just went through everything, and I just loved it. And you know, I've learned it from different teachers in different ways, but just hearing you eloquently put it in the way you just did, just touched me in a different way. So thank you for that.
Oh, my honor. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm thinking, like, let's get into a little bit of like the plant medicine, and let's end this with a vocal attunement. That sound good?
Yeah, I have my bowl.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so plant medicine, I've done ayahuasca once. I did it last year. And it was like an incredible experience. I literally went into a place, it's rough. It's definitely a rough experience if you've never had any experience with psychedelics or anything like that. I don't know, you might want, for me, I had training wheels before I did it, so I felt like I was, experienced enough, but it is really intense. And I really went into a place where I really felt like I was the experience. I was the universe experiencing itself through me. It was like it wasn't me anymore. I was just connected to everything that is, and it blew my mind. There was a lot of healing, and um, can you touch on your experiences with ayahuasca and why you think it's important or can be very beneficial for healing?
Well, I actually, there's two, I'm a little undigested with whether it's for everyone. You
Right.
know, there's something, it came across my path at a very beautiful time, and it was very beautiful for a while. And my karma was such that there were different parts of it. So, but I think from the women who have come to me, especially in this last year, like the more that I've done healing for it, I can see also the shadow side to that path. And so I've had several women come to me who do a lot of plant medicine and do a lot of ceremony, and they're fragmented. Like their psyche is fragmented. There's not a lot of integration in some of the circles. So it's funny that I'm actually changing the reframing the question to like a warning in a way, or like a
Hmm.
caution to
Yeah.
people who because what happens is and this is so like to all of my sisters, like I am one with you on this. We are all feel like we have deep medicine to give in our work, and then when we find a source, or like Ram Dass would say, when we find a method, the method eventually self-destructs. So you can't ever seek something outside of yourself, right?
Hmm.
And I'm going to get to the good part in a moment. But so what happens is people become dependent on, oh, this is the thing. And once we do that, there's an attachment, and you know that from meditation, right? And then we have expectations, and we're like, this ceremony, I'm going to get it. This ceremony, and we become chasing, and we chase, and we chase, and we chase. And that loses our power and our energy, and we're giving our power away to a substance that is, we're asking for healing. Now here's the shift. So that part is true. And women have come to me and been like, I'm crazy, I'm everywhere. And I'm like, okay, you need to call back. And I can do that. We can call back. We're using the voice. We can call back our energy and cohesive, and then bring it back into the world. And so that's been my journey. And at the same time, the shaman that I was gifted to work with was like the real deal. He had 20 years of experience as an ayahuasquero, and his teacher was Don Salone, which they write books about as one of the masters of ayahuasca and the lineage, right? So I've heard so many different variations of people who, especially nowadays, like in the last several years, actually, as I've kind of gotten out of it, more and more people are like friends of mine are just like, I hold ceremony, and I'm just like, interesting, like, that it's very different from how I was learned. So I also caution people for that, because it opens you up to the astral, and there's not only benevolent beings on the astral. So there's that. So that's my 2 cents on that. However, what can be done in one ceremony from the spirits, that the ancestors, the energies that come in, is remarkable. You can spend 30 years and never, of therapy and spiritual and meditation, all these things, and never get to that memory that comes up with your father, or something that puts all of the pieces together, or cures your cancer, or something that happens from one emotional element that you are graced with. That and I obviously, we don't understand but the wisdom of the plants, people who are herbalists, I have so much respect for. The plants have sentience that we do not understand, and if we were in right relationship to the ancestors, to nature, to all of the elemental beings and the spirits, we would be so much happier and more attuned with ourselves. There would be nothing to look for. And So I believe that this particular medicine was here to raise the conscious, like it was got widespread in the last 15 years to raise the consciousness of the planet, and that was her mission. That's beautiful. And just like everything humans handle, we're not completely holding it in the right regard and right way. So there's a little bit of loose ends that happen, and balance in all things. So like the more that we can integrate the work, and not do the patterns, you know, the negative, not make it another thing that we're adding on our, like I'm in this course and I'm taking this ceremony and I'm doing all, if we can not do that with it, then it can be, we can have a right relationship to that beautiful, beautiful. I mean, there are healer beings that like come and like repair our energetic nervous system. And I really owe so much of my understanding of myself, and also some of my neuroses, to be honest, but understanding of myself, because I did these things my whole life, energy, sound, etc. And then like it just kind of, when I started to sing in ceremonies, I was like, this is it. Like I sing in ceremonies, like my voice heals others. And I'm still learning on that path to how to, that's a really good segue to doing that, and to hold space for somebody's energetic body, and offer transmission to help them heal. There is nothing more sacred than that, in my opinion. So
I completely agree, and so I feel honored to have this conversation with you. It's so, I mean, it's just so rich. It's got so, you know, so much substance. So yeah, like why don't we do the attunement now?
yeah.
I had somebody ask me, he's meditating, and so he was asking me, he was like, yeah, I want to get more into the chakras, and what are other ways that we can, you know, heal and stuff. And I was like, oh, you can use your voice, you can use sound, and we're going to be doing the bowl and some vocal stuff, right? And
Yeah, I sing, if that's okay. If I
yeah,
just
for sure.
and we can dedicate it to the journey, the journey with the plants, but also if people haven't experienced that, like just the journey of the soul. That's my cat. He wanted to add his own my vocal empowerment kitty.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, just the journey of the soul, like you said, is so rich.
Mhm.
You know, there's so many layers to it. So,
Awesome.
and this is a sunstone palladium bowl for those of you who are curious, and it's balancing the masculine and feminine, and just bringing healing. Can you hear it?
Hmm. I can feel it.
Oh, wonderful! You can see them.
I went somewhere else. I had full body chills, full body tingles. That was beautiful. I feel really like light and relaxed right now. Not that I wasn't relaxed before, but even more so. And I want to touch a little bit on why should somebody do any sort of healing work, whether it's sound, whether it's, you know, emotional clearing, whether it's meditation, whatever, or ayahuasca, whatever it is, to heal yourself, right? How does this affect our life? How does this affect our health and relationships?
Someone should only do healing work if they're ready to make changes in their life. So they have to have a certain element of bravery, to be honest, because healing work is kind of backwards. And those of us who have gone through awakening processes know that they are a requirement for a dismantling of your life as it currently is, in order to activate what your soul might be calling. Because the whole journey of healing is kind of a setup. Like, we have karma in the past and where we're comfortable and we're familiar, and then in every lifetime the soul sets a new intention for growth. That new intention for growth is opposite of where we've been, so the journey from where we've been to where we're going is not as comfortable. So if we're truly in alignment with our dharma and our forward direction, there's going to be some pain and suffering attached, but somehow love and pain seem to coincide. Suffering and infinite love are two sides of incarnating, you know. And so yeah, you have to be willing to shed your skin, really, to be honest, to like, I mean, I know I'm making it sound very glamorous, but like you really like willing, especially with plant medicine or any kind of work, to like really offer to let go of your attachments, right? That's what all of the, they all say the same thing, you know, let go of your attachments, give all of your works to me. Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita, like surrender the fruits of your labor. So not to say that I'm, you know, any of us, like you and I, we're still human, but we've noticed like, oh, that's me doing that again, you know. And so there's a
Right.
constant willingness to let it go, to give it up. And so you become familiar, especially if you're a practitioner, you know, you become familiar with that dance, and then it becomes a constant rebirthing, like shedding and rebirthing. And so people should do it if they have a physical disease and it's time to do it and reclaim their power in one way. They're in a marriage that they don't want to be in, they're in a job that they don't want to be in, they need something to be different, they want something to be changed, or they feel lost and they
Mm,
don't know exactly what it is, but they know that something's off, you know, and what, or they have started to do it on their own. Now, this is a lot of people who come to me. They're like doing the awakening, or they know they have a purpose as a healer, or they've got powers and they don't. Like my girlfriend today, or my client today, she described part of herself that we activated last session as an X-Men, but like was
mm,
like didn't know how to like do her powers, right? And so if you're, and I remember that I spent years in that phase because I didn't have the mindset, like hire a coach in my 20s when that was happening, like
right.
wasn't part of the mass consciousness then. So I spent years kind of being like, bzz, 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 like not knowing what was going on. So like if that's you, you know, and you're just like, oh, I'm radioactive all of a sudden, you know, or I'm super sensitive, then yeah, go to somebody and like get some mentorship and guidance and do work, you know, so you don't have to figure it out for so long, you know.
Awesome. It's perfectly said, I think, because there is definitely the warning, but there's definitely so much rewards that come with it. And so, Michelle, how can somebody work with you if they're interested? What is your offering for anybody watching you right now?
Yeah, so for any of you guys who want to reach out to me, my Instagram handle is where I'm mostly on social media, and that is Michelle Infinity. And I'm sure the link will be below or wherever you can find it. And
Mhm.
then my name, .com, MichelleCoutinho.com. And my email is michelle@michellecoutinho.com. So you can just reach out to me through my website. And yeah, basically we'll have a conversation. So it all starts with, you know, me getting to know you better and really hearing what exactly you're going through on your journey, and then seeing if it's a fit for us to do one-on-one work. I'm also doing, besides the private coaching, I'm going to be doing a workshop. I don't know exactly when this is being released, but I'm doing a workshop on All Souls Day on November 1st. and it's going to be Healing Your Energetic Wings. So I'm doing that. And then I'll be launching a group program probably sometime December, maybe early next year, depending on how that goes. So there's going to be many opportunities, but just reach out to me one-on-one and make a connection with me, and then we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for getting on the call with me. I think we had an amazing conversation. I'm so happy that we did this. And y'all be ready for day 3, because this is going to keep going. We got more people, and we're going to keep diving deeper. Even I don't even know if it's possible, but we're going to keep going deeper and seeing what else we can find. So stay tuned for tomorrow, and thank you so much for tuning in today. And be ready for my friend Shawn Elliott's song called Ain't It Something coming up right after this. So look forward to that, and see y'all tomorrow.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Elliot. This next song coming up ties in perfectly, I think. In my own journey through just trying to be okay with myself internally, I started reading all these really interesting facts about life, about energy, about quantum physics. You know, I was just searching for anything that would give me answers as to how to feel better, how to have some peace, how to regain confidence and empowerment. And it just amazed me how many things I had never learned just about myself, about the things I'm made of, about atoms, about energy, about all of that stuff. And so I ended up making a song called Ain't It Something? You know, ain't it something? Because that's the phrase that would come out of ain't that something? Wow. You know, anything along those lines. So this song, Ain't It Something, is basically just going over some of those things that made me go, whoa, life is pretty cool. I hope you enjoy it.
Ain't it something? You're nothing but energy and form. Life came together to collaborate and you were born. All these molecules swarm, solidifying your form. You're like a snowman made of crystals that float in the storm. You're that which that is. That could sound like madness, but the fact is you're made of the same stuff that is formulated planets. You're an electron with the mouth, the tree with the mind. Don't believe me because I said it, just seek and you'll find. Don't conceive with your mind, don't need thinking this time. Cause what I speak of is that which you can see if you're blind. And this is prior to thought, but it's the essence of it. It's what even allowed a thought to magically become it. And it's the core of all existence. It's made of stillness and relentless creative persistence. It's everywhere, but yet we miss it. You wonder what it is, but what it is asking, what is it? Now ain't that something? Now ain't that something? Ain't that something? Now ain't that something? It makes you wonder about your life. Look around the world, look at everything twice. Yeah. Now ain't that something? Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Well, ain't that something? Ain't that something? Yeah. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Yeah. Now ain't that something? There is this test titled on locality. It's where they pair these two electrons oh so casually. And when they meet up, their charges sync up. It's like they know each other's there, so they decide to link up. And that is when the two are split up. Thousands of miles away, you think they'd up and give up. But what they found is when they changed one of their polarities, the other also rearranged. Now ain't that strange? Ain't that something? These two communicate but seem to be connected by nothing. So what's that tell us? Ladies and fellas, maybe that is why we know how people feel before they even tell us. Or when I get a call out of the blue from someone and I tell them, wow, I was just thinking of you. We're all connected and meant to be like different bulbs on the same string of lights upon a Christmas tree. Now ain't that something? Yeah. Ain't that something? Well, ain't that something? Ain't that something? It makes you wonder about your life. Yeah. Look around the world, look at everything twice. Yeah. Now ain't that something? Ain't that something? Ain't that something? Well, ain't that something? Ain't that something? Yeah. science fiction's cool, but this is really tangible. And did you know that butterflies in their cocoon, they liquefy and solidify before they bloom? And in your eyeball, you have more atoms than stars in all the galaxies. It's hard for me to even fathom. And you're immortal. Yeah, you just hearing this, your energy, and energy is never died, it only shifts. It's such a trip, it truly is. How smart that all the ants are, and yet they handle their biz. And look at kids, that's pure existence. That's wonder mixed with innocence. That's consciousness without resistance. And did you know when they show a random picture that there's evidence, our heart predicts it right before the screen will flicker? And everything has come from nothing, but nothing's really everything. Man, ain't that something? Now ain't that something? Yeah. Now ain't that something? Ain't that something? Yeah. Now ain't that something? It makes you wonder about your life. Yeah. Look around the world, look at everything twice.